Hello people, welcome back to my channel. My name is minalkhona. In the previous videos of tallyprime, we have started with creation of company. We have seen how to set up the features. And now we are going to see how to create groups and what are the by default groups already created on tallyprime. And later we are going to see today, how do I create ledgers on tallyprime? All right. So what are the by default groups I'm talking about? Now, every ledger, or rather I can say every transaction is connected to my ledgers, and every ledger is connected to some group. Ultimately, I'm going to generate reports. Now, to generate reports, compulsorily, I will have to connect them to some groups, right? So by default, Tally has given me certain groups which are pre-created. All right, so if I just want to go and view which are the groups which are pre-created, I can go on gateway of Tally, master, alter, group. So here, these are the groups which are already created by default on Tally. All right, if I have a requirement of creating more groups, you can, by this option on the top, you're seeing create, the yellow line which you're seeing create, or you can come back to gateway of Tally, masters, and here you have an option to create group. So I can create groups from here. All right, there's also a shortcut to create groups from the ledger. So I can also create it from there. And I can also create groups or ledgers from the transaction. So that will be saying with 9. All right. Now, if I want to go one step forward and I say, okay, I can use the by default groups which are given in Tally, right? So I want to create some purchase ledgers, some sales ledgers, some tax ledgers. So these groups are already created. So I can see purchase ledger, which is already created. I can see sale ledger, which is created. I can also see taxes ledger, duties and taxes, which is already created. All right, in that case, I'm not going to create more groups. As and when required, I may create more groups by using a shortcut. Now, I want to create ledgers. Are there any by default ledgers already given by Tally? Yes, profit and loss account and cash account. I can check in alter, ledger, cash account and profit and loss account, which are created by default. Apart from this, I'll have to create the set of ledgers which are required for my business. Now, I have a requirement of a few ledgers. So let me discuss what are the ledgers which I want to create. So we had created a company and we have also said that I have this company registered under GST and this was the GST number. All right, now these are the set of ledgers which are required. Inter-purchases ledger, intra-purchases ledger, inter-sales ledger, intra-sales ledger. Now purchases ledger and sales ledger are my group, which I just saw. Right, now why do I require this ledger of inter and intra? Why this bifurcation? Now in GST, if you're purchasing something within the state, you're registered in Maharashtra and you're purchasing from Maharashtra. In that case, input CGST, that is input central goods and services tax will be applicable plus input SGST, input state goods and services tax would be applicable. Right. Okay. What about inter purchases? If you are registered in Maharashtra and you are purchasing from outside the state, from some other state or from some other territory, but outside the state from where you are at the place where you're registered. In that case, inter purchases account will get affected and IGST. What kind of IGST? Input integrated goods and services tax will be applicable. What about inter sales and intra sales? Similarly, you have now understood the meaning of intra and inter. Intra is within the state, inter is outside the state. Now, when I talk about sales, output GST should get affected. So if I talk about intra-sales ledger, meaning output CGST and output SGST should get affected. And if I talk about inter-sales, output IGST account should get affected. So this is a set of ledgers which I want to now create on Tally. Now, why am I emphasizing on the creation? Like I said, the implementation is very important. If you miss out a single detail on implementation, possibly till the time you actually want to generate the GSTR, that is a GST written, possibly there's a high probability that it may give you an error report. So to avoid that, I need to be perfect in implementation. And if your implementation is perfect, in that case, very comfortably, you will be able to generate your GSTRs from the system, from the software. Now, the software can be any software. Right now, we are focusing on tallyprime, but you're using any accounting software. This is going to give you the same result. All right, so let's go ahead and let's create ledgers. Let's see what are the formats and what changes in the format. So now I am already on the alter screen of ledgers. I can see the option of create here. So that is one option. And otherwise, my second option, I can come back to gateway of Tally, create ledger. Now here I can create the first ledger which I want to create, inter purchases. Now inter purchases should be connected to some group. That is what we were discussing. And the group should be purchases. Now purchases, the group is already created. What if the group was not created? In that case, on the top right hand side on purchases, you can already see the creation tab, right? And otherwise the shortcut is Alt C. I can click on Alt C and I can use this shortcut to create a group if the group is not available. All right. So purchases account, type of ledger, not applicable. Is GST applicable? So I'll keep GST applicable because yes, GST is getting affected, but I'm not going to change anything. Instead, alter GST details. Right. So I'm not changing anything in the GST details. Type of supply, my type of supply is goods. So here I'm going to take goods. Is TDS applicable? So for now, we are not considering TDS for time being, and therefore I'm keeping it as undefined. Opening balance, if you are a going concern, you would have an opening balance on 1st of April. I can feed in that opening balance here, and I'm good to save this ledger. All right, the next ledger which I require is intra purchases. Now again, under purchases account, type of ledger, not applicable. Is GST applicable? Yes, I do want GST to get affected, but I do not want to set any rate with respect to this particular ledger. I don't want to put the rate restriction in the purchases ledger. Rather, I would put rates while I'm creating my stock and service ledgers. All right, so these are my goods. TDS is not applicable. Now, if I want to just save this creation on this screen, okay? Now, one option is I can keep clicking on enter and I'll get the accept screen and I can click one more enter and accept, right? But what if I don't want to go so far? I'm on this particular tab, on this particular field, and I just want to accept from here. In that case, we had discussed a shortcut, Control A, save and close, or accept and close. Right. Okay, let's go ahead. The next one I'm going to create is inter sales. Now, inter sales is under sales account. Type of ledger, not applicable. Is GST applicable? Set alter GST? No. Type of supply? Say goods. I'm good to go? Yes. I can click on Control A or I can just accept the screen. Intra sales. Under sales ledger, right? Similar? Okay, now you have noticed that the goods and services ledger are similar. The format is similar, right? Now, if I want to create duties and taxes, here I'll have to be careful, right? Because now my format is going to change. The creation format screen is going to change. All right, let's go ahead. Let's check out. The next ledger which I'm going to create is input IGST. Now, input IGST. IGST is integrated goods and services tax. When I say input, meaning this tax is applicable on purchases and output is applicable on sales. All right. Now, what group are we talking about? I'm talking about some kind of taxes, right? So very important. Be careful about the group which you are going to select. Your group is going to be duties and taxes. Type of duty and tax. What kind of tax are we talking about? Now we know we are talking about GST. All right. Central tax, says integrated tax or state tax. Now IGST, you're creating IGST, meaning this is integrated tax. Be very careful about this selection because if you miss out here, possibly on the transactions, the system will not calculate the taxes for you if you miss out on this particular detail. Be very careful. This is not applicable and we are good to go. Okay, the next one we are going to create is input CGST. This is again duties and taxes. Yes. GST. What kind of GST? Central tax. Now, percentage of calculation, we are not putting any percentage of calculation because again, we are not restricting the calculation by putting a rate to a particular ledger. Like we have discussed it, we are going to put the rates only when we create the stock or service ledgers, right? Or goods ledger, meaning goods or services ledger. Right now, we have not created any goods or services ledger and therefore, till the time we don't create, we are not going to put rates anywhere else. If by mistake you have feeded in the rate, possibly the system will conflict in the backend and it may not calculate the GST. Rounding method not applicable and TDS we are leaving it to undefined. All right. Input SGST. Now this is state goods and services tax. The same way, I'm going to create more 3 ledgers, which is output IGST. Now output, like I said, it would affect your sales. Output IGST would affect inter-sales account. All right. Now this is GST. Again, because you're saying IGST, it is your integrated tax. Output CGST. This is your central goods and services tax. And output SGST, which is your state tax. All right. Now, in this way, we have created a few purchases ledger, sales ledger, and duties and taxes ledger. Apart from this, I will require creditors, debtors, banks, goods, and services ledgers to go ahead with my transactions, right? So with time, we are going to see that creation. But before we go ahead, let's check where can I see the ledgers which I have already created. So I can just come back to Gateway of Tally, alter, ledger. Now here are the ledgers which I have already created. If you want to change, meaning alter any of the ledgers which you have already created, in that case, you can come here and you can alter any of the ledgers. Now on the alteration screen, even if you want to delete the ledger, Alt D. is the shortcut to delete any master or any ledger or any transaction. So the shortcut is Alt D. So I can change from here, right? If I click on Control I, that will allow me to write more details. So if I want to write more details with respect to this particular ledger, I can. The shortcut is Control I. Name I have already mentioned. Inter purchases, if I want to give any description for this ledger, so I can give a description. Purchases between two states, that can be my description, right? Apart from this, if I wish to give any notes, I can give notes here. Bill wise details are not required. I'm going to give bill wise details when I create my creditors and debtors. Inventory values affected? Yes, of course. To your purchases and sales, inventory should get affected. Method of appropriation is not required right now. The GST details are applicable and TDS details we have not defined at present. All right. And my purchases and sales account cannot have party bank details, right? So even if you want to delete or alter, you have several options out here. All right. So here we have seen a creation of two types of formats at present we have seen. As we go forward, we are going to see how different is debtors, creditors, or bank ledgers, how different are service ledgers or stock ledgers, right? Because when I talk about ledger creation, every format is different. All right. So for that, you will have to stay tuned in. Do subscribe to my channel. And if you like the video, do share, spread the word. I'm going to come up with more exciting videos, especially related to shortcuts. Many a times I have noticed, and many of my participants have asked me for shortcut videos. Like what are the shortcuts for tallyprime and, at one place, so that you don't have to write down all the shortcuts. So that is what the plan in future is. Thank you so much. Keep watching.